All right, guys, welcome back. We are going to get working on setting up our menu through WordPress. The very first thing you'll notice if you've set up themes before is that you can go into Appearance and there's usually a menu button there. But as you can see, we don't have a menu button. That's because when you're developing a theme from scratch, you have to enter this function yourself. So that's something we're going to go ahead and do. So let's go over, we're going to search how to add menu support for our WordPress page. So we're going to do a Google search on that, and of course the first thing that comes up here is the WordPress Codex. That's generally the case when you search WordPress things, questions like this. Okay?
Yeah, and let me sidetrack you here. That the way we're phrasing this makes a difference. Saying add menu support for WordPress, you might not think to look at things that way, but your theme can or does not support certain functions within WordPress. So there are other things like add custom logo support for WordPress,
Right.
or different things like that you don't have the option to do, and you want to add support for that. That doesn't mean that your theme can will utilize it right away. You have to build it out a little bit, but that's the way to look for things like this within WordPress, and this is a kind of common thing you're going to need to do with all of your themes.
Yep. Okay, so let's go in here and see what it tells us to do. And basically what we're looking for is a code snippet that accomplishes this function for us. And when we scroll down on this page, it says register menus. And then it says in your theme's functions, you need to write a function to register the names of your menus. Once you do this, it'll allow your menus to appear in that appearance box, and it'll have everything set up where you can start making your own menus.
Right, so this is in your theme's functions.php, which we haven't talked about it all yet, but this is the first thing that we're going to put in there.
And you'll get a lot of these code snippets where you may not be able to read this. I can read this and I have a general idea what this code is doing. But the level of WordPress development we're doing, we don't have to be like, this is exactly word for word what this code means. We have to know what the code does. That's what's more important.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, let's go ahead and get this put in our functions PHP. Did you have something else?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go to our functions.php, which we haven't touched yet. We're going to edit it, open it up, and I'm kind of doing bad practice. If you're actually adding a bunch of code, it's a good idea to use a text editor, the code editor. The stuff on the back end of the cPanel kind of sucks for that, so I just use a text editor and indent it manually. But make sure to indent your code and keep it clean. With your functions PHP, you have to add an opening PHP tag at the beginning. If you just paste in this code which we just copied, and I'll do this to show you, you're probably going to run an error on the front end of your website. Right. It doesn't know what to do with that.
Right.
It doesn't know it's PHP. It's running at the top of your page, but it's not actually running the code. It's just outputting it as a text thing. So let's say this is PHP, save changes, make sure that error is gone, which it is. Everything looks fine. And then now if we refresh the back end here and look at our appearance tab, we should have support for menus.
Okay, now one last thing before we get going on actually making this menu. Let's go back into our code that we just made for the functions.php, and let's make sure to add comments here, because when you comment your code, that way when you go back and look at it, or when someone else comes to look at code you did, they can understand what's going on.
And you're very, very good at this, and it's something that's coders and developers everywhere really appreciate this type of work, because somebody else is eventually going to be in your code, or you are a year after you wrote the code, and you're not going to know what's what. So this is absolutely vital.
Right. It's not only best practice, but it's just the right thing to do.
Yep. And with PHP, you can see you just use the // here to comment out a line of code.
There we go. So now that we got that done and we've registered it on the back end, in the next section we can actually get building out our menu.
Yep. We actually, basically what we have to do after this is we have to insert this into the page. Right now, we're still in our index.php. We have the problem of it still has the hard-coded menu in there. So we need to change that out for the dynamic code, and we'll do that in the next section.